Hey, it's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
And I'm Morgan Levine.
What a pleasure to talk to this guy, Joel Manby. We're going to talk about his updated book. It is Love Works. And both Dan and I talked to you, Joel. I think I talked to you back in 2008. And then Dan got with you 2012. It's been a long time, but we're so glad that we could catch up with you. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's great to be here. You guys
Now, are you a little envious of Dan's where he is? He's on the beach. He's been doing his show from the beach now for the last 3 weeks. And Morgan and I are stuck in our homes. What do you think of that?
I'm very envious. You know, I'm trying to learn Zoom. I found the screen, but do you have to download the picture to do that?
They have a couple that are already on there, which this particular one is, and you just click on it and it puts that behind you. So it makes you at least feel like you're on the beach, even though you're not.
One of the employees from Orange, where I'm chairman, he put a jail cell behind it.
That's probably appropriate.
Yeah, well, I would do that, but that brings back a lot of bad memories. I just finished up counseling for that. Joel Manby on the screen there if you're watching Zoom, and he's on the radio. Joel, we do want to talk about the book. You're an amazing, you've been an amazing NR CEO and a president, formerly of SeaWorld, and an author as well. We want to talk about your leadership and where we are in the crisis. But you personally, how are you surviving during this social isolation pandemic 2020? How are you?
You know, I'm probably like all of you and us. I've had a lot of anxiety and fear that I feel guilty about, honestly, because as a Christian, I don't think we should be fearful. And honestly, it's taken me to my knees a lot to say, what am I afraid of? And I think it's because for the first time in our life, we've really seen how out of control things can be or seem, and that we don't feel safe. You know, with 9/11, we didn't feel safe going on airplanes or going in tall buildings, but now you feel unsafe going anywhere. And I've had to really examine my own self and is my faith strong if I have this fear? And so honestly, that's what I've been struggling with, and just trying to be strong for my kids. You know, I had a conference call with all our kids yesterday, and just making sure they realize and put things into perspective.
Joel Manby, you've seen a lot being the CEO of Hershon Entertainment and SeaWorld, and you were on Undercover Boss when you were at Hershon Entertainment, and that was fun. You've seen a lot. Have you ever seen anything quite like this, though? Not only personally, but as far as a business goes, too. It's affecting so many businesses.
I actually never have seen anything like it. I've lived through the dot-com implosion, ran an Amazon startup company, the 2007-2009 crash when I was at Hershon. SeaWorld is just an ongoing onslaught of difficulties between Blackfish and legislation, and now the poor company going through COVID-19. But I think for reasons we just talked about, it leaves you feeling very uneasy and very kind of unsafe and insecure in some ways. But what we have done as a business, as Orange is a nonprofit I'm involved with, we have just over-focused on communication and really help people see clarity in where we're going and what we're going to do. You know, a lot of times as leaders right now, we want to give certainty. I don't think we can give certainty. All we can do is give clarity over, here's what happened today, here's what we're going to do about it, and keep communicating as things change, because we know they're changing rapidly.
Yeah, that's good, because there's really not a whole lot of certainty you can give, but if you can point them in the right direction and at least give them a feeling of somewhat of security as much as you can in this time, that obviously helps the employees that are underneath you.
It also, yes, and it also requires absolute brutal honesty. And I think in some of the other crises I've been in one case I wasn't the CEO, and the CEO tried to bring a lot of sense of humor and almost like a motivational speaker, and that is not what the people want. They want to be, they wanted to be led, and I think people want to be led through these times, but you can't give them certainty, just clarity and brutal honesty. Because I think the good thing about this crisis is I do think it's going to rebound pretty quickly. And if businesses can slowly get reopened, I think a lot of the people go back to the jobs they had. But ultimately, that is the single biggest question that the president and the governors of this country have to make. And that is, when do you start opening back up so that the loss of life and sanity and that problems of substance abuse don't overtake what the illness of COVID-19 itself would do? And that's a very tough question.
Yeah.
Now, Joel, in your book Love Works, you have 7 principles for effective leadership. What would you say to someone who's leading a company who is a CEO during COVID-19? What are some effective principles that they can enact to make sure that, everyone underneath them stays sane, but also to lead their company through this time?
Yeah, that's a good question. Just for those who aren't familiar with the book, it basically takes 1 Corinthians 13, the famous love verse that Paul wrote, and it breaks it down into 7 words of love. So basically, we teach love to our leaders, but it's not just words on a plaque or a page. It's, we talk about it, we reinforce it, we have top-down, bottom-up surveys. There's a whole process that's all outlined in the book. But to answer your question, I talked about patience already, really being patient with how much you have to over communicate, because none of us want to do it as much as we feel. We're all tired of Zoom calls or conference calls. So we have to be patient with that over communicate. I'm not tired of this one. I love this one.
No, we get it. We get it.
We get it. And I think we have to be forgiving, which is another one of the words. People are scared. People do have anxiety. We have to be forgiving of them, but we also have to be forgiving of ourselves. For me, I feel some shame as the chairman of Orange that we didn't have more cash built up and that we weren't more ready, although I don't think anybody had enough cash built up. So forgiveness is really important. Trusting is really important, because when you have Zoom calls, if you don't have a clear process for how you're making decisions, people can feel left out. So you have to really set up process to make that happen. And as I mentioned, being dreadfully truthful, even with yourself. And I think naming what we feel is really important. If we feel grief or fear or anxiety, I think we name it and we talk about it as a leader. Because what, I've heard a quote from an Army general that's so good. People will forgive a leader if they're not the leader they should be, but they won't forgive a leader if they're not the leader they claim to be. And so I think authenticity and truthfulness is just so critical.
Joel Manby here. We're talking about Love Works, the book, and it came out, the first time it came out, Joel, was when? Was it 2012?
It was 2012, yep.
Yeah, and now it's been freshened up a bit. I mean, what timing, right? For this book out to be, it's almost like you planned it, and we know that you didn't. But I mean, how timely is this book now for not only leadership that are leading now in this crisis, but on the other side of this, as we talked about a little before we went live, on the other side of this, we're trying to get things in order. We've got the stimulus going on, the trillions being poured into the economy. I would think this would be a book that everyone would want to hang on to get them through, right?
Well, of course, I believe that. And here's the thing too. It's appropriate even for families, because Jesus said the entire scripture was summarized in love. And when he meant that, or when he said that, it was written in Greek. Of course, he spoke in Aramaic, but it was agape love. It was love, the verb. It's how you treat people. It's not how you feel about them. Americans get confused by that. They think eros, which is the Greek word for romance and eroticism. That's not the love we're talking about. But unfortunately, Americans only have one word. The Greeks have 4 words for love. So part of what I try to do in the book and my speaking or this call is help people understand what I believe Jesus was talking about, and it's how we treat people. What better time than now to learn that loving other people, forgiving them, trusting them, being truthful, being patient, being kind. All those words are applicable in our families or as leaders. And I do believe that another good thing out of this crisis is going to be people are, I think, closer as families. On one hand, it's very stressful. On the other hand, I think people will value faith and family more than they did before.
So well said. Joel Manby, where can they get the book real quick, Joel?
It's available on Amazon or the Audible version if you have trouble sleeping at night. I have a very very mellow voice, so but no, it's available there, and appreciate the ability to talk about it. And I really wish you guys the best through all of this.
Well, you know, as a guy who produces commercials, I was just thinking what a great voice you have, and I could use a voice like yours. So if you ever get bored, just let me know. I can send some scripts your way, you know.
I have you guys are way too good.
It's a great deep voice though. I love it.
Well, thank you very much.
Hey, Joel, let's hook up with you really soon. Let's not make it 8 to 10 years, shall we? Let's get together again, because we love what you do. We love your heart and your purpose and your calling. You're touching so many lives, including ours. Thanks. We'll get back with you.
I appreciate what you guys do. I appreciate your positive message out there all the time on the airwaves, and we need that. So thank you.
Thank you. Joel Manby, check out the book. It is Love Works. Hey, we'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
I'm Morgan Levine.
This is Faith Talk Live.